thank you for coming tonight, and it'd just be really interesting to know who here is a parent of a Key Stage 1 pupil. Key Stage 2? Both? Yeah. So it just gives us an idea of the audience that we're talking to. Quite a lot of this you might realise might relate to the older pupils, Key Stage 2, but there's no harm in you knowing what we do as they journey through from reception to year 6 essentially. And Mrs. Channell will touch on Key Stage 1 as well, and what we do in Key Stage 1 and how the lessons are structured and how we feature things. So I won't give too much away, otherwise you'll have nothing to talk about. So just to give you an idea of what we're going to be discussing today, ultimately our philosophy, so our function over fashion, and the idea of why we're here and why we do the job, and actually for you to know what the message is out there when we come to PE and sport. And how we've got on with our Empower Her project that we ran last year. As PE was a spotlight subject, but we also set up this initiative that ran all through the year, so I'll give you some information on that. Legacy, rest and recovery, a bit about curriculum, so Key Stage 2 and Key Stage 1, and also looking at how we encourage excellence, which Mrs. Vincent will also talk on. And then I'll talk to you about some selection fixtures as well, so the nitty-gritty of difficult conversations when things we don't match up in what we see, and how we work with you and that parent engagement. So an introduction to the team. They're not all here, but I can introduce certainly. So we've got Katrina Channell, who is primarily the Key Stage 1 whiz. She's a phase leader and really looks after the Sports Ambassadors programme, which is one of our leadership strands in the school. And then we've got Amy Edwards, who is roaming around somewhere. She's at the front door, and she's our netball and swimming lead. And then we've got Luke Marlowe, who has joined us this year. He's a fantastic football specialist, so he is our football lead as well as a Year 3 class teacher. And then you've got myself as head of sport, and Lucy Vincent, who is the assistant head of sport, and is in charge of all things scholarships, athletics, so behind the sports days that happen as well. And also our fantastic tour that we launched last year that we plan to continue now year on year. Okay, so function over fashion. So some of you might have already seen this, those of you that have come to my talks before, but it's this iceberg effect, and I'm sure you've seen this before. But the idea is we want to enable our girls to pick up some of these traits and characteristics, but a lot of what goes on is actually under the surface, and we aim to try and make them adaptable, humble, supportive young ladies with a growth mindset who are quite gritty as well when they get into fixtures and competition, but also have the ability to reflect, and then teaching them that resilience through their school journey as well. And that only really comes about through our strategic vision with the school of communication, how we do learning and teaching and learning in the classroom, our learning powers that I'm sure you've heard about that they might have mentioned at home, as well as looking at the well-being side and facilities. So how can we improve our provision to offer what we want to and have that ambition going forward. Okay, so I'm going to show you a little video, and some of you might have seen this last year, but I wanted to keep it in here because this kind of sums up the underpinning of our philosophy. And I actually think when I first saw this and I came across it on Instagram, I thought it was really heartwarming, but also it tickled me because it's something in the classroom we strive to do every single day with the children that we work with.
One more time, ready? 2, harder, okay? 3, okay, good. Let's see. Body set shot. Okay. Break it and shot. Ready? Go! One leg, okay?
too far. I'll leave it there, okay. So that really sums up for me what we probably do every single day in our classroom, whether it's out on the hockey pitch or whether it's in Runcie Hall. But it's the idea of lifelong literacy, for that love for movement. So that idea of instilling that movement and saying it's fun, it's exciting, and actually it's really good for you, and promoting that idea of making the correct lifestyle choices. So when we're trying to avoid words like calories and diet, because actually it doesn't relate to the children, and it's really important that we recognise that. I think as adults, when we think about movement, sometimes we're relating it to ourselves and saying, you know, in the context of talking to children, they'll say, oh, but mummy talks about losing weight, or dad wants to go to the gym because he wants to put on more muscle. But actually for them, the idea of movement is completely different, because they don't need to worry about all of that. So that's the idea and philosophy, is to say, actually, can we promote a love of lifelong learning, so that when they leave us, wherever they go, whether they carry their journey on to secondary school or they go to a different school, but they're going to carry on some element of movement, and they find something that they really, really want to do. And I still bump into pupils now who are probably in their late 20s, have got a job, adults, grown up, and they say to me, Miss Potter, look at me now. I didn't really love PE that much, but I found the gym, and I really enjoyed doing it when I was offered it in year 10 upwards, and now I have a gym membership and I'm taking part in competitions, and I go 4 times a week, and it's amazing, because I think actually you found something that you want to do and you love. And then I bump into others who've started playing paddle and necessarily didn't enjoy that journey in certain parts of their time at school, but actually eventually they have found something that they want to do. I do think we have got currently a good balance between competition and sport for all, and that's something that we've really strived for in the last 3 years and worked quite hard as a new department. And now we're looking at, we've got a really good sport for all offer that I'll share with you in terms of what we do currently. But actually, how can we have the edge now competitively as well? So yes, a lovely base to start from, and we have that balance, but where can we now start to take that as well? The idea of winning to learn, learning to win and lose, is a big one for us with our philosophy. Even starting from reception, we will plan and structure sessions around simple winning and losing games, and then continuing that theme of actually how do we manage our emotions in that situation, okay, whether you're the winner or the loser, because sport is really harsh. And there is always going to be that element when they're playing against someone competitively. And then what we do is we underpin it all by this concept of safe uncertainty, and we use that approach in our teaching and learning all the time. So we like to trouble the comfortable and we comfort the troubled. That is the idea, and that's the way I can sum it up to you. So when those that are comfortable, they need that extra stretch, we encourage it, we ask them to be brave, we ask them to take risks, and actually the art of failure is like, we master the art of failure, and we say keep doing it, it doesn't matter if you fail, you're in a safe environment, okay, until you get to a point where something clicks or changes, and that is the idea of what we essentially want to do, and just say, actually all the testing that you do all the time, the reading that you do, it's an element of practice that gets you better at doing it. So how do we do this? How do we do all of this? The excitement, the idea of that physical literacy, the idea of that safe uncertainty and the winning and losing. We strive to understand our pupils every day, and I think now we as a team feel really comfortable, having been here for 3 years, to say we know our pupils really, really well. Okay, we know the pupils that we need to give a little nudge to, so actually if they need that nudge or that push, doing it at the right time in a lesson or a competitive environment, but also when they need a little arm around them because things aren't possibly going their way, that we recognise when they need that little arm around them, and just to help them out of that situation so that we're not putting them off. Being competitive, I think, for girls can be a different element. I think with boys, sometimes it's naturally there. Don't get me wrong, but I do. With girls, some girls will really embrace it and they love it from the start. Some girls really struggle and they see it as a pressure element. So actually, how can we help them manage that pressure, and how can we turn it on its head and change how they feel about competition? How can we put a positive spin on it? What does competition bring? How does it help you with all the soft skills? Actually, why do we do it? All right, there are the reasons that we do it. And we've had girls today say, playing in goal, I don't want to play in goal. It's too much pressure. And we've had to have that chat to say, actually, there are 6 players in front of you. And for the ball to come through 6 players to then suddenly come at you at goal, it's not just you that has that pressure on them. Actually, your team is responsible for protecting you and keeping the ball away from you. And as soon as we had that chat yesterday, well, actually, Miss Potter, since you said it like that, I'd like to play in goal tomorrow as planned. I mean, today she didn't feel like she wanted to play in goal after one went in. But, we're still working on it, and it just shows you that the level of resilience that we've got to keep instilling, it's got to be consistent. We have to do it all the time. And it's a reminder, not just to them, but sometimes ourselves as well, that resilience factor. So sport for all. This is where we keep going forward, sorry, here we are. So what do we do for everybody? So what does everyone get to experience? They get to experience pre-season sessions that are open to all. They start from year 3 upwards, so anyone can sign up to pre-season sessions when they start. So we get the ball rolling with hockey just before we go into the term. So on inset days we run a pre-season hockey session that we open up to everyone and they can sign up and come and join in. We do a pre-season netball session in January during the inset days, and we also try to do a pre-season cricket session in the summer term before the girls return to school. So you will see that as you come into Key Stage 2. We also do house competitions. We run competitions in netball, hockey and football where they all get to play in their houses, and they're immensely proud, and they wear their house t-shirts as well. We have Key Stage 1 festivals, which I'll let Mrs. Channel touch on more, so I won't take that away from her. Games afternoon fixtures are for everybody. So we strive to give those girls a match experience and competition in their games afternoons. So generally, because we're quite a big school and we have big cohorts compared to other schools, we tend to churn out maybe 6 to 8 teams in an afternoon to make sure all the girls are getting the competitive element. And the challenge we've got at the moment is there are a lot of other schools that are smaller and don't have the number of girls that we have, and they're getting smaller. The elephant in the room, but it's not really, is there's the VAT rates, the business rates, and that's having an impact. And I'm going to fixtures meeting and seeing other schools that are actually getting smaller in their girls section, but we still have, a proud girls section that we go, well, we still want to make sure we can get fixtures. So we're working really hard at that to enable that as well for the future, for the next couple of years. We have co-curricular activities, so the ability to sign up to those. Again, they're not ability streamed, they're open to everybody, and then you get allocated depending on your preferences. And we have streaming in the curriculum, so we stream the groups in our curriculum by ability. And the reason we do this is because we want them to get the best out of their learning in the time that we have, so that we can actually differentiate what we're teaching to certain groups. And as they make progress, there is movement between those groups. So as girls make progress, they may move up. As girls, they might be really strong in one sport but not so strong in another. We might move them down so that actually they're in a position where they're going to get pushed in the right environment. And then we've got our Year 4 sports tour, which was a roaring success. this year, and they went to Cardiff. I didn't actually go on this tour. I think I was playing hockey, but they went to Cardiff, and the girls got immersed in some football, and they had training sessions, and they went to a stadium. They watched a live match. They also did that with the netball. They had a netball session with Cardiff Dragons, and they did go all the way to Cardiff, and they watched Surbiton Hockey Club play hockey to Bath. Who knew? So they got a bit of everything jam-packed into that weekend, which was really inspiring for them, and that's open to everybody in Year 4 as a sign-up. So the Empower Her for the Future project. Again, this is part of our inclusivity drive that we have. So last year we ran with a project where each term we had a theme. So we had body confidence in the autumn term, we had nutrition in the spring term, and then we had the resilience, embracing resilience for everyday life in the summer term. And I don't know, but some of your children may have come home talking about certain things, and I know I heard from parents where around the dinner table, sorry, I'm gonna pick on you, Sarah. Sarah's daughter Cassie, Sarah came into work and said Cassie came home one night during the week, and we just done a big assembly on resilience. And at the dinner table, the conversation was about resilience, and Cassie turned around to Mum and said, "Mummy, what have you done today to be resilient?" And she's in Year 1. Incredible. Because sometimes you think you do these things and you don't know if they're having an impact, but actually to hear it firsthand from a parent just makes it all worthwhile to say what we're doing and how we're actioning it is getting through, and the messages are getting through to the girls, and they're listening, which is wonderful. So we had guest speakers in, workshops, assemblies, competitions. We had a sports bra company come in for body confidence who gave the Year 4, 5 and 6 a talk on the science of sports bras and the benefits and why they should be wearing them. And then parents had the opportunity to sign up for their daughters to be fitted so they could then purchase. But we also had that opportunity for the mums to come in and actually get fitted for a sports bra properly with a company that also works with other schools. So for us, I think that was quite revolutionary, and to think, for us to be able to bring that to the forefront and for the girls to be really comfortable to talk to us about sports bras and see us as people that they can come to was really inspiring for us as well, and for the girls to take away. Things like even bringing shorts in. So we set up a parent working party group for this project. It's probably one of the best things that we've ever done, to have parents come in half-termly and come and talk about the projects that we were going to do, and actually say, how can we get more engagement from the girls? How can we get the parents more engaged and get them active, so that we're all that springboard for motivation and inspiring the next generation, but also it might awaken something in us as well. And some of the stories that came out of it, and a safe space for parents to talk about their experience of being in school. We did a parent survey, we did a pupil survey, and we got so much from doing that, and only through that and working with that parent body, that led us to how we then put the themes together for the year and how we had the community come together. So we're carrying on the park run. You are going to get a letter about park run coming up, so one every term, where we will come down and meet you, and you bring your daughter with you, and they run the park run. You don't do it, by the way, it's just for the children, so you can be the cheerleaders. We're going to try and carry on the walk and talk from last year. So in the morning, the parent workshop said the morning was the best time. So a walk and talk for parents after dropping off the children at 8 o'clock. Go down, walk by the river with staff members that could go, and that we can have that level of engagement and actually build our relationship with the parent body. That was really beneficial for us. We ran a family fun day as well, where you could bring your daughter along and take part in some sports at Hinchley Wood. And we did an evening sports session for parents. We ran a cricket session, and we ran a netball session for parents at Oakham Lane on a Friday night as well. So we had some parents opt into that, some very cute, were smiling. The cricket was particularly, I think, quite competitive.
Both of them.
It was, yeah. So that's what we had started initially with the Empower Her for the Future project, and some of the things we're going to continue and those themes. So we want to bring in those guest speakers. We did a resilience workshop, and we'd like to bring in the oomph factor again, but really tailor it specifically maybe to Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2, because we had some parent feedback, and again that feedback's so powerful for us to reflect and then just elevate it and improve things all the time. So I'm going to move on to how we cater for performance sport. So we're looking at the other end now, and we're saying actually what do we do for those that are potentially quite talented, that might be in the future be on a pathway and a trajectory to county level, regional level and beyond. And actually for those girls that now come to us and say, I want to be a professional footballer, I want to play hockey for my country. And I suppose teaching for 19 years now, it's only in the last 5 years that I've started to hear this from girls. And it's brilliant to say how far we've come, because they're being inspired from all angles, and we're going to talk about that legacy. But what do we do for them? So we enter IAPS competitions, and it's the Independent Association for Prep Schools, so they run tournaments and competitions. So at the moment we enter the football, the hockey and the netball, but it depends on the cohort. So at year 6 level, this is the first year we've entered a football team, because knowing the girls really well, we actually have footballers and those that also play externally as well as for the school. So how do we stretch them? We say, okay, let's put them into this IAPS competition, which actually is probably one of their toughest competition experiences before going into senior school, because there's so much more to come, but this is their real first taste of selection and pressure, and feeling that, and it's a real journey, you know. And us as teachers, it's a time where we're saying, you're good enough to play here, but right now you're not there yet, and to give them feedback, and that's a tough pill to swallow, but it's part of the process that we start so that they're ready for senior school. We do borough competitions, so we engage in the borough a lot more. So if it's a competition, we put our best team in. If it's a borough festival, it's open to everybody, and then we'll talk more about how we do that with a fair process. And then we do cross-country events. We do some Saturday tournaments. So for example, this Saturday morning we've got the under-11 A and B team that are playing in a tournament at Danes Hill, and they'll play against some of the very best Surrey schools at hockey as well. And that's a real competitive tournament on those Saturday mornings. So we're trying to do more of those where we're invited, but there would be a view to try and run one of our own as well. And then morning S&C, so strength and conditioning. So we have an invite-only club for, at the moment we have 18 girls that we invite in year 6, and the same will happen in year 5 for the year 5s from February half term. And we identify them as a PE department. We sit down and have a discussion and say, actually, who would be our 20, it could be 15 to 25, it might not even be that much, but who's got the potential as a performance level that requires a strength and conditioning training through the year to help them with all the sport that they do, not just with us, but outside of school, and acknowledging that actually we need to do it to help prevent injury and to educate them more about looking after themselves. And then we also look at pupils playing up an age group. So if they're particularly talented in a sport, they may play up into the next age group. So for example, in the under-11 football squad for IAPS at the moment, we have invited 2 Year 5s to play up an age group because they're able to cope with that level and they've got the potential, so we have to stretch and challenge them. So we do look at that as well. Legacy. So I know I've touched on this and I probably could talk about it all day, but I think we can't ignore what female sport is doing. They're really building a legacy, they're inspiring the next generation, and they're just showing what's possible. So from the Red Roses that are currently playing, and those of you that don't know, there's the World Cup final on Saturday, and the Red Roses are playing Canada. If you get an opportunity to watch it with your daughter, it just could be a real trigger moment to really inspire them. Just wait for the questions to come at you as well, because you probably need to know everything about rugby. But have Google on the side, I would say. That's what I do with my nephews. Female cricket, the 100, all through the summer, side by side with the men's game. The internationals, the Lionesses in the last 5 years that have just absolutely thrived and flourished. But I think all the impact of this is that it's building more confidence in the community. It's providing relatable role models for our girls. I mean, certainly for me at my age, I didn't see any live sport on TV with women or girls playing, and I didn't see anyone like me doing sport. I come from a background where I'm Sikh Punjabi. Did I see anyone else out on the pitch doing what I was doing? No, it was only because my parents were 100% behind me and just said, run with your passion, and if you've got a talent in it, then do it, and if you want to teach PE, go and do it, because you've got to love what you do. And I think there's that element of saying, actually, have they got relatable role models? Have they got a supportive network behind them as well? It's also brought a lot of visibility and investment. So with that visibility has come a government pledge. So, for example, the government has said that they want to give all girls access to grassroots football, so that they can bring on the next generation. It's bringing that systemic change. There's a grassroots movement going on as well. Clubs are now oversubscribed. There are waiting lists for clubs. Most clubs now, I think you'd be surprised if there wasn't a female section in any sports club. I mean, I think they would feel it would be quite disappointing. They also get a lot of funding to ensure that they have got a female section in their club. So that's really important, and that's what's also happened at the grassroots level. And I think there's a cultural movement as well in terms of celebrating women in sport, and it's encouraged more women and girls to participate. So, for example, the Red Roses, it's a testament to them, because they're just showing all different shapes and sizes can get to performance level sport, and actually they can get to the highest level, and that's inspiring the girls that maybe don't think that they could get there, or don't think that they belong in a certain area or a sport. So I think we need to celebrate all these successes, and what I would say to you is watch sport on TV, watch live sport with your daughters, because it's so inspiring and they will learn so much from it, and it will really complement what we do in school, because we do come in and say, what have you done at the weekend? What did you watch at the weekend? Did you watch that football match? Did you watch Arsenal versus Man City? Who won that game? Because also the Women's Premier League is on every weekend alongside the Men's Premier League in football. Who would have thought that would happen? I'm now waiting for, is it the football stickers? It's not football stickers anymore, is it? They're booklets. My nephew's got the booklets, and I'm waiting for the women's version. You know, that's the next part. That's what we want to see. But the Lionesses' victory has led to 56% increase in women and girls playing football over the past 4 years. That's huge. But I'm going to stop going on about that, because I could go on about it all day. So hopefully I've got my point across. Rest and recovery. This is really important, I think, especially with girls that have great potential and they're doing so much. And the biggest strength our girls have is we've got girls that are all-rounders. you know, they're not just specialists in one sport. We've got girls that can play across 2 to 3 to 4 sports, but actually that makes them really busy people. And I know it's easy to say, let's jam-pack their calendar if they've got something on after school every day, or at the weekends, or on a Friday night. Now, I know clubs, external clubs are relentless. I know there are external clubs that are out there that train on a Friday night lights. I see the girls training on a Monday night, finishing at 7:30 when I'm just starting at 7:30, and they're crossing over with me. So I know they train late, but I think there's got to be a balance. In terms of long-term athletic development and that performance, we've got to prevent overuse injuries, and we've got to prevent that burnout and that fatigue. And it starts early on, because we've got to get them into the habit of realising that there's a value in rest and recovery. I think certainly when I was young, and if any of you played club level sport, she's young, she can play 3 games in a day. She's a whippersnapper, she's got the legs, she's got the fitness. And there I would go on a Saturday, ladies hockey. If they need a player, I would go and play 2 to 3 games a day. And actually, that wasn't a good thing, ultimately, over time. So I think it's just stopping and checking and saying, actually, is that a good thing? Because also they're in a growth development phase as well. So it's really about looking after them. It's also about muscle repair as well. And again, things like mental health. So making sure that they are having a rest. It helps them to reset their mind. If they're maybe doing too much, sleep might become a factor as well, especially if they're going later into an evening. And I don't know about you, but as adults, if I've been training till 9 o'clock and I come home, I need to decompress, and sometimes it can take me till 11, 12 o'clock at night by the time I've had dinner, and then I've kind of packed my school bag for the next day, and then you sit down and I can't go to sleep immediately, because actually it's quite intense, isn't it? Because you're still wound up highly because you've come off a training session or practice. So I think for their minds, we need to reduce that stress, and also that idea of rest, sleep, recovery keeps them motivated as well. A little bit of research on sleep quality. So with skill-based sports, a lack of sleep seems to have the most significant effects on reaction time and accuracy. That's just in adults. So I'm wondering what that does with children, because there isn't a lot of research into sport in children, but there is with adults. And actually, sleep reduces the risk of injury in athletes. So research shows that those who get fewer than 8 hours per night are 70% more likely to report an injury than those that get more sleep. So I'd say to you, just incorporate rest and recovery into the weekly schedule for your children, especially if they're the type of child that likes to be really active, and they're suddenly, as they're getting older, playing a lot of sport. Just think about how you prioritise those pinch points. So you might take something away in 1 week if they've got a heavy load on. And don't be afraid of doing that. It's a short-term thing, but it's got long-term gains to it. And nutrition, you know, and I think that's probably sometimes the hardest part when we're busy people, just making sure that they're eating right. And we do a lot of work here to say, when you're performing, competing, you're at school every day, what are we eating, when are we eating? We've got a fixture in the afternoon. Let's have a look at your lunch plate. Are you eating enough to fuel yourself for that fixture in the afternoon? So as we walk through the lunch hall, and I might have a look at some plates and say, I think you need some more carbs, you need some more pasta in there, just to help them for that afternoon. I'm going to stop there. So it gives me a bit of a break as well, and I'm going to move on to Mrs. Chandler.
Hi, so yeah, as I lead kind of on Key Stage 1, I thought I'd just touch on a few things for the parents. of Key Stage 1 children. When I was writing down a few things of what we want to achieve, and the main aims is fun, number one. We're obviously very fortunate that we get to teach these lessons, we get to move around like animals in reception, we get to play fun games, but ultimately, touching on, as Ms Potte said, we want it to be a lifelong lifestyle where they are having a love for movement, having a love for being active, having fun with their friends, enjoying the competitive element, and all of that combined. We focus mainly on fundamentals, thinking of running, jumping, throwing, coordination and balance through gymnastics. And this obviously starts from reception and all the way through. They tend to have a fundamentals lesson and a gymnastics lesson in this term, and they're interlinked with the skills that they're learning. And we can see the progression that they're making from all our lessons. What we often try to do, especially in early years, is have a theme or a book that we sometimes use in our lessons. So we might, we might base what we're doing based on the book. So for example, because it's fresh in my mind, we've been doing some animals in reception. So we're reading books about different animals, and then they can act and move their bodies like a giraffe, for example, which they seem to really enjoy, and it just gives them a different focus. Another key part is talking to them about how their bodies change when we're active. I had a perfect example today in our reception class. A little girl, we'd been doing a Peter Rabbit theme, and Mr McGregor had been running around chasing all the rabbits, and a little girl came up to me a bit upset and she said, when Mr McGregor was chasing me, my heart felt like it was melting. And I said, do you know what, don't worry, that's absolutely fine. And she was almost a bit upset, and I said, that's a really good thing. It shows you've worked really hard and you're recognising, yes, your heart is working. And we didn't go into too much detail, but it was really lovely, and it's actually identifying that is okay to feel like that. It means you've done well, and actually it's different to when you're just sitting in your phonics lessons and things like that. So we changed it from a negative to a positive. But again, moving on, I'll show you kind of the stages. That's early years. Moving on to year one, we might talk a little bit more about why is our heart rate increasing, what's our body needing, and then moving on, towards Key Stage 2. A couple of things. So when I mentioned winning and losing and sportsmanship. I know Ms Potte touched on it, but again, that's really important. We want to encourage and be able for children to be able to understand how to regulate their emotions when they are winning, when they're losing, sportsmanship elements of being able to congratulate other people when they're doing well. The key word of resilience, teamwork, collaboration, it's kind of a thread that runs through all our lessons. We assess our girls through using head, heart and hands assessment. Which means we're not just looking at the girls who are really able in throwing and catching and can they run the fastest. It's very much thinking about their head and are they able to cope when they win or cope when they lose, and are they empathetic to other friends, friends if they've fallen over, or friends that are not doing so well, can they help them? And we find that works really well. So even if they're really able in one area, they might struggle in another, and then vice versa, and we identify that early and we pick out children that might need help with that, and then obviously we support that as much as we can. Which leads on to stretching and challenging. If we have girls that are needing that extra challenge, we will make sure that happens, and that's obviously in Key Stage 2 we do streamline in their game sessions, but even identifying in early years and year 1 how we can help to push them. We offer some fundamental clubs, and they're selective for girls that we've just identified might need that little bit more encouragement. It might be a confidence thing. We often find sometimes if they're a little bit timid or they're not really willing to initially be really confident in their activity, they just need that smaller group situation where they haven't got so many girls that we can kind of give them that love and care and push them. And it's absolutely nothing to worry about, it's not a negative. We really find the difference when those girls go to those clubs. As an example, when I first started, I identified a girl in reception, and come leaving year 2 or moving on to Key Stage 2, she was doing really, really well in the year group in the class. So it was good to be able to do that and then help those individuals. We also we like to encourage the girls to reflect on their kind of behaviours and actions and success, evaluating what's gone well and what hasn't from early on, which we think works really well. Borough events, there aren't too many, but we run maybe about one a term, depending on our calendar and ones we can attend. We often do selection as who is interested, who would like to come along, and we just draw names out of like a ballot system. So it will be early on, there's no competition as such, and they go and represent the borough, and it might be like a multi-skills, and there was a circus themed one year, and they're fortunately run by the borough, and it's great for the girls to represent their school in that sense. Which moves me on to just thinking about any sport at home. Even from early years, taking the girls out to the park, you know, climbing frames, that's building up their strength, it's building up their coordination and their balance. Throwing and catching at home, you know, tennis ball, ball of socks, just anything like that, it's helping their hand-eye coordination. So little things that you can do, turn it into games. Hopefully the love that they're having for PE at school is going to transfer to home, and you can carry on doing that with them. I mean, I talked a lot about fundamentals there, but just we do obviously run a gymnastics program as well, and then dance as well, so the girls are going to love being able to create their own routines, and again, there's animal theme there as well. This is just an overview, you've probably seen all this, and I just picked out the year 1 curriculum map. So from autumn to spring to summer, you'll see the key words that sorry, it's a bit small, but the coordination, simple movements, promoting sportsmanship, competitive games, variety of size of balls, and then we're moving on to athletics, more specific, getting them ready for sports day. But if I talk, thinking about early years, initially in our lessons now, we're focusing on space. We're actually doing a lot of lessons at the moment, just girls being able to find space, making sure they're in their own space, not crowding each other. And then that leads so nicely when we're moving on to year 3 and we're playing football, and they've got just a really good understanding of that. Year 2 then we move on to skills-based lessons, so we're talking more specifically ball control, footwork, we're talking about the rules of different sports. Specifically at the moment we're doing football with year 2, we're really exceeding them in we were doing drag back, changing of direction, things like that with year 2, and we're seeing where we're mimicking lessons on off-site in games, on-site, we're seeing a real difference, aren't we? And they're making real good progress. And just my last point, and I know Ms. Potter touched about this, but from the pupil survey that we ran last year, one of the feedback was we don't really get to watch much sport in school, and I completely agree, we're so busy trying to get them teaching, and actually it makes you think, do they know what a football match looks like? We're taking them up to play football, but actually have they seen what that looks like maybe at home? But we started at the start of our lessons, let's watch a bit of the Lionesses, let's continue that inspiration, see how big a pitch is and what space they're using, and they're not all 10 players around one ball. And they seem to enjoy that, and we'll do that at the start of hockey, we'll do it at the start of cricket, and again encouraging that at home, so like we said about the rugby, but even if you're watching, you know, the men's football, again, if you might have a few questions, so I had a lot in about a 2-minute video about what was happening, but even so, I'd love answering them and being able to just, we go on and on about sport a lot, but actually seeing it for real on the telly is inspiring for them. So yeah, that's it. If anyone has any questions about Key Stage 1 programme or what we're doing in Key Stage 1, please come find me at the end. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm just going to touch on the Key Stage 2 curriculum. So in Key Stage 2, we carry on that focus of assessment. So we are also using the head, heart, hands model. So the idea of, with that model, we look at what they're doing in terms of the physical side, so how they're doing, what they're doing, their thinking side as well. And the heart side is about empathy, teamwork. Do they have a growth mindset? So we try and link all of them together. And we're going to try and do a lot of work. I think the idea is now to evolve it, to have the girls to kind of understand what we use to assess them, okay, without the pressure element, but introduce the head, heart, hands, and actually, are you able to put all 3 into practice, and whether they can layer them as they go through their journey with us at school. We look at feedback as well, so the idea of essentially trying to give them feedback so that, especially in Key Stage 1, it's very hard for them to reflect. Some of them can be really good at it, and they can reflect on their own, even today. kicking a football, one of them immediately turned around and told me what she thought she'd done wrong. And I said, well, not wrong, but we could do better. And I said, do you know what to do to correct it? Yeah, I do. And it was amazing because actually it was clearly modelled really well by Mrs. Channel. And actually for her, she realised immediately, so she got that immediate feedback from herself. And that can happen, that's a really lovely point that we have. But then into Key Stage 2, we move more into feedback, not just from us, but then the questioning side of it comes in, so we turn it on its head and say, okay, well, why did that happen then? Or why did the ball go off in that direction? What was it that contributed to it? So to get them to think about it, and the idea of peer assessment. So really structuring it and asking them to give feedback to each other can be quite interesting. You have to remember you have to tell them how to give that feedback as well. You know, the idea of, yes, you're giving feedback, but how do you give it in a way that's still going to motivate someone, and being kind to each other. And we're also focusing on challenge, so like we said in those curriculum lessons, how we can nudge people when they need it, and how we can then progress an activity where we say, actually, is this challenging enough for them, and how do we challenge them further? And it will be different group to group. And in all of that, we encompass the learning powers. So at home, you might have been hearing about focused flamingo. You might have been hearing about, what's the other one? Is it the curious cat or coyote? Cat, sorry, it's cat, isn't it? I've got to get my spelling right. So our main themes is this term are focus and curiosity. So if they're asking you questions at home and you're watching sport and they're just asking question after question, it's actually quite a good thing because it's telling you that they want to know more, and we're really trying to get that out of them, you know, ask those questions, be curious. Sometimes we might not know the answer, and I think sometimes it's quite refreshing for them to hear that. And I've had to say before, I actually don't know the answer to that, but I'm going to go away and find out for you, because they also then know we're human, because we're not like an encyclopedia that knows everything as well. And I think that's important for them to know, to understand that we're human. We do hockey, netball and football across autumn and spring. We made a conscious decision after year one of being as a department that we traditionally, when I first came into the department, it was set up that they do half-term sports. But what we found was, for example, we do hockey this half-term. By the time we've got them to a place where they're really making strides in that sport, we had to stop it there, and it was October half-term. And then we moved on to football. And that was really difficult because they'd only just started to get their head around it and develop. So we made a conscious decision to make the hockey term longer. So we do 9 weeks of hockey, so we go into after October half-term. And then halfway through next half-term, we change to netball. So we get 9 weeks of netball that then goes to February half-term. And then we have football in that last spring half-term. If anyone has any suggestions of how we create more time to get 3 sports into 2 terms, I welcome it, but it's certainly been a challenge for us because we want them to make progress. We want them to leave confident in those sports as well, even if it's not their thing, but having the basics and being confident enough to be able to perform in it. And then we do cricket and athletics in the summer term. So year 3 and 4 have 1 games lesson a week, and then in year 5 and 6 they have 2 games lessons a week. So they have a morning game session and a games afternoon. So actually they get more in those later years, alongside all 4 year groups getting a PE lesson on site. So with the PE lessons we're doing the artistic side, so more dance, gymnastics. We'll also look at health and fitness, and we'll look at team building as well, and the on-site lessons. And then I've already talked about safe uncertainty, but that idea of troubling the comfortable and comforting the troubled, so creating that environment for them to be able to thrive. And then in terms of the curriculum, we actually brought in game awareness as a theme. So when we're teaching, we thought, how do we get our pupils to understand themes of or concepts of attacking and defending across football, hockey and netball? How do we do that? How do we make sure they don't compartmentalise one sport into another and just keep them in the box? Because there's so much crossover, and what we do is we try to make them realise that there's that crossover so that the invasion games aren't too different. So we constantly refer to game awareness with hockey, netball and football. So we might be in our hockey phase at the moment, but we're always referring to, well, actually the concept of speed and urgency is the same in football as it is in netball, as it is in hockey. And the idea of when we're attacking, we want to use the width, and by spreading out, we actually make the pitch bigger, which allows more space for things to happen. Do we just need it in hockey? No, we do it in football. So those themes run throughout, and we try to pick a theme, generally a lesson, especially when we're building up to fixtures, to be able to instill that as well. So when they're going to fixtures, I know sometimes the fixtures just look like chaos, but we are actually trying to embed these over a long term. And you know, it's hard work. Some pupils will pick this up naturally. Some pupils will find this really difficult, and they can articulate it and verbalise it, but the doing will be a challenge. And that's essentially what can make the difference between how the groups are streamed as well, in terms of, it's great that they can articulate it, but also can they do it, and how confidently do they do it, and we have to think about that as well. Also, when we stream them, we don't want to put them in a situation where they're in a group that they're out of their depth in, and that ultimately puts them off enjoying their PE sport. So it's a fine balance. And I'm going to hand you over to Mrs. Vincent.
Hi, I'm conscious of time, so I'll quickly do a whistle-stop tour. So one of my roles within the department is talent ID and scholarship. So that, for us, really starts at year 4. A lot of parents will sit in front of us in parents' evening and reception in year 1. What's my daughter's sport? Where should we push her? What should she do? How many hours should she be on court? And actually, that's not what we're about. We're really, really proud of how broad our curriculum is, and how we basically give them all the knowledge possible and let them try out everything to find their thing. And finding their thing might not even happen with us in the prep school. It might not be till you're 7, 8, 9, 10 over in the senior school. But for us to even talk about scholarships, we wouldn't even entertain it until year 4. I think you sort of have to give them a few years in terms of playing fixtures internally and externally, and seeing how they manage within that environment, and also their cognitive ability to understand the game and how they use that within matches. So in year 4, I invite all parents in year 4 to come to a parents' evening, just to give you a little bit of an overview in terms of what a scholarship is, what it's about, what sports are offered at our senior school, and what the requirements and expectations of your daughter would be to even apply for that scholarship. The majority of them that you have to play externally, so that's one box that needs to be ticked before you start applying in year 6. We used to have loads and loads of reference requests a few weeks before, and I'm like, have you read the criteria? They need to have been playing for a good few years. So I will give you all the information you need in year 4, and that generally is the time. Children will play externally before that, but year 3 to 4 would be where the sort of club grassroots level will become quite a big part of some girls' lives. Then that's sort of a food for thought and sits with you for the next year. And then in year 5 we will have a specific scholarship evening where All would be welcome, but I would potentially pick up the phone to those of you that we feel that would be on that pathway. So they'd be in our sort of journey already, that we'd be inviting them to morning clubs, we'd be pushing them to play the next year up, we'd be ringing you and saying, why, I'm looking at Shelley in front of me, why is Neve not playing football outside of school? Because she's got a fantastic talent, and she is now of this season. But they're the type of conversations that we will be having. In that Year 5 scholarship evening, we will invite the senior school members of staff over, heads of sport, to give you a little bit of an overview of what to expect as they progress over to the senior school. And then I will have individual conversations, and some of them can be really tough. What we see and what you see sometimes don't always marry up, and I'd ask you to take our professional opinion on board. You might still want to go ahead with the process, and some parents are governed by the girls. They just really want to give it a go. We will support that. But there's also girls that potentially parents are being put through the process that will not cope with that process. It's quite harsh in some realities of, you might not make it, you might not get the scholarship, your friend might, someone else from another school might, and it's about managing them expectations and building them around the mindset. And some girls just aren't quite ready for it at that age. So I will have that conversation with you. And also it's an open two-way conversation to go through that. And then we have worked really hard in the last couple of years of building a really supportive programme for the girls. So during their Year 6 PE lessons, we will take them out for one-to-ones, to do drills with them, skills with them, but also to have one-to-one conversations about, how are you feeling about the process? Oh, I'm really nervous, or my sister got a scholarship and mum and dad think I'm going to get a scholarship, but I don't think I want a scholarship, and all the sort of conversations around that. So basically acting as the middle person of, it's an open place where you can share any of your thoughts and feelings, and hopefully we can take away that pressure and any feelings that are sort of negative around the process. And then we take on a mentoring approach, so we're kind of in that phase with Year 6 now of parents have requested references for us, and they, between now and Christmas, it's the lead up to the scholarship process as such. So they will be going for assessments at the senior school or other schools, where they will be put through a series of skills-based assessments, fitness tests. They might be put into mini matches, but we're in a really competitive area. Surrey is a real strong sporting bubble, and some of the girls that are our top athletes here, actually when they go out to the field, they're maybe not quite there yet, so it's managing their expectations. Also, we're also really keen to expose the girls to the senior school as much as possible. We don't have any say in the scholarships, but we're in the same vicinity, we're part of one school, so showing them off as much as possible. So we're really keen to get them into Year 7 training, so that's starting in a couple of weeks, where they go and train. Our Year 6s train with the Year 7s, so they get a feeling of what it's like, what the step up is into the senior school, the expectations, how many nights the girls are training. So that gives them a real insight into that pathway as such. Just a little bit of information on our scholarship. So if I take netball as an example, over the last 3 years, we're really proud that our A team here has gone across to the senior school and made up part of the A and B team. So all our A team girls have gone straight into the A and B teams. It's really important to highlight that it doesn't matter if you don't get a scholarship, you're still exposed to the exact same training if you're part of that A team. You get the mentoring, you get the fitness sessions, you get the additional training. The only actual thing is your parents are getting a tiny, tiny, tiny smidgen of fees. And okay, you potentially get the status, but actually 11, does that really mean anything? What you do want is the exposure to as many fixtures as possible, as many training sessions as possible. So over the last few years, we're really proud. So this is just an example. Tilly and Quiver got scholarships, but actually 3 other girls within our A team are part of the A team over there and are all experiencing exactly the same programme. So I think that's one thing we really try and give the girls insight into. It doesn't matter. It's a process that happens. It's quite an old school process, I'd call it, but actually you still get everything that other girls are getting. If you warrant and you've worked hard enough to be in that team, you'll get exactly the same opportunities. So yeah, that's a bit of my role and a bit of scholarships.
Okay, I will whiz through. Selection, contentious issue selection, I think, and as they get older, we obviously have our participation events and festivals, but when it comes to selection for games afternoon fixtures and competitions, it's a tough place to be for some of the girls, and it's their real first flavour of actually, probably they feel like they're being judged, right? Let's be honest, it feels quite harsh. But what we're essentially doing is we're trying to put them into an ability group where they're going to enjoy the fixture, and hopefully we can match the fixture with the other school. It doesn't always happen. We have strong cohorts here, just like other schools have strong cohorts in different year groups. And we all talk on the circuit and go, oh, actually, with this year, how's that year group? Or actually, mine are really exceptionally strong. And then you go, oh gosh, we've got to go to a fixture and manage that. But also, you've got to know that when we go to fixtures, generally we don't allow things to get out of hand either. So what is the point in a team, and I'd like to say this hasn't happened, but say, you know, they're being beaten 6, 7, 8, 9-0. It's not something that we do. We actually go, right, we need to change something. And both schools are very good at talking about that, to making sure that happens, so they're going away with a positive experience. But in terms of selection, when it comes to selection in the older year groups, we do have selection, and we call out, they all know that we've got an A to F or A to D team, okay? But what I really like about what we do here is we've made them colours instead, so we have mint, green, white, silver, sage, forest, getting the idea, olive, emerald is in there. And that's giving them an identity and a community and a place where they're valued within that team and that squad, playing those fixtures. And selection is fluid. I mean, just today on the way back from a fixture that we were very late back from, we still sat on the bus and went through and said, okay, look at your teams, who stood out and should probably maybe be playing up next week, who maybe needs a bit more support and maybe needs to play down the tier to get their confidence back up. And we did that already. So we did our movement already, and we'd spoken about who the MVPs were, and in that 15-20 minutes golden time that we have on the coach, we have that chat after every single fixture, so that when we go into the next session, whether we're training them for the next fixture or we're putting our team sheets together, we have spoken as a department about selection. And sometimes the girls get really upset about selection, so they might be in the mint team, and then there's 1 week where they're dropped to the green team, and they've gone home and they're distraught, and you get this email. And we've all had that email, I'm sure, in whatever context it is. And I think it's just remembering that we're all humans, and before you send that email, just remember that there is another human being on the other side of it also reading it. And what we're all collectively trying to do, all of us, and with you, is we've got the best interest of the pupil, your daughter, at heart. That's why we're here. And sometimes what they see and what we see might not match up. And that's where we have those conversations, but they're developmental conversations. So in terms of, you know, we love an email where you go, look, she's really disappointed. Is there any feedback that you've got? What does she need to do to go back up? Or what does she need to keep doing to move up the teams? And we know the children well enough to be able to give that feedback. And sometimes with the mint and green teams, because they are uber competitive, if I have to drop someone into another team the next week, I tend to have a quick word with them before they see that. and I'll just say, listen, today, next week you're going to play for the green team. What I need to see more of is this, this and this. And they go, okay, all right, that's what I need to do, okay. But it's a tough place to be. Trust me, I don't like those conversations with the girls because you do feel like you're disappointing them. But there's an element of reality that I can't have. Sometimes we have a fixture where we have to have 6 teams that are going out, and then we need to spread the girls across the 6 teams. So we need 8 in each team, which means there's a knock-on effect and everyone goes down. And it's like a club level structure. So we have to knock from the top down. And then sometimes we go to fixtures where we only require 4 teams. So then everybody kind of goes back up. We have to make the squads bigger. So we also have to get the girls to understand that there is a sway. Sometimes it's a squad of 8, sometimes it's a squad of 10, sometimes it's the bare 7, and that will make a difference to selection as well. But just have the conversation with us. We're really open to conversation, and I think as long as it's a conversation, that will help all of us, because, like I said, we're here for the girls, and I know sometimes it can become quite emotive, because seeing your daughter upset is an emotive thing. So please just let's just build that relationship and have those conversations. And if you feel like your daughter needs a nudge, drop us an email. We can do that. Okay. If you want any feedback about how they're doing, because you want to know what they might be, how they're doing in their sport, we're more than happy to give feedback. We've got really good, and we've got much better at having ad hoc conversations with parents on car duty, at the gate, in passing, at drop-off and pick-up, just to say, oh, so-and-so is doing really well, I saw this or that in netball, or actually, is your daughter part of a football club? No, well, she should be. She's got real talent, and we've seen that whilst we've been doing football with her after school. And we've actually had girls then go and join clubs that are now thriving. So one girl, does she play hockey outside of school? Parents said no. I said, I think we need to send her to a hockey club. And within 1 year, she's in the top group. So sometimes it's us identifying them and just letting you know so that they're able to thrive, and you can give them even more opportunities. Fixtures, have I got any year 5 and 6 parents in the room? Afterwards, because I'm conscious of time, if you do want to come and talk to me about communication for fixtures, if you need clarification, I can go through that with you separately, because we don't send out online replies for year 5 and 6. So I'm happy to go through the platform with you. And then move on. Platform school sports. How many of you have heard of that out of interest? How many of you are new to it? Some of you don't have anything to do with it until Key Stage 2. But in Key Stage 2, we put all the team sheets on this platform, and you can see all the fixture details as well. And don't worry, no, it's not as though anyone can just access and go and see where your daughter's playing. There's a password to the team sheets that you use to be able to see what team your daughter has been selected for, and then all the details for that relevant fixture. And we do that for all the games afternoons. I can really quickly show you that if I click on here, okay, this is what you'll see as a parent on the school website, and you'll see that, like even today, there's our 4 teams that went out to Daneshill. Okay, and if we click on that, you can then see that the under-10s played Daneshill, and if your daughter was playing, you would click on the blue man icon, you'd put the password in there, press enter, and then you can see who's been selected. And then you can see the details of where it is. You can click on the map, the date, the start time, return time, tea time. It's a wonderful platform actually, and you probably won't know it's there until later, but certainly for the Key Stage 2 parents, you can go in and you can also scroll down here, you can look at fixtures, you can look at all the sports, you can filter through how many teams there are, you can go to a specific team by clicking on the side here. All right, there's a wealth of information on there, so if you want to explore it, do, because you'll be using it, and if they go into the senior school, that is the main method of communication. And how can you support? So like I said about selection, let's make it a collaborative two-way conversation. If there's something that you're disheartened by, or your daughter's upset, or you want some more feedback, please come and talk to us. Kids and equipment. So just making sure that they're prepared for all weather, and they've got footwear that's fit for purpose, and they've got the right equipment, because it then just takes the stress away on the day for them as well, because they worry about it if they've forgotten something. And then just building and developing expectations of your children. So they're going to get to a point eventually where, you know, they said to us, oh, well, my mum didn't pack that for me this morning. Right. And we'll say, hang on a minute, you're year 4 now. You can't blame this on your parents if they didn't pack your waterproof. We want you to take some responsibility, okay? So give them responsibility, build that, develop that, give them expectations, because we're all busy people, and you're ferrying them here, there and everywhere, but start to build that in with them so that they're becoming more independent as well as they get older. And help us manage their emotions. There's often a nuance between what's happened at school and their version of it and what has actually happened. So I think just help us with that, and you know, if there's something that you want to talk about, drop us a line. You know, could you just give us some information? She's come back a bit upset, this has happened. What's your take on it? We're more than happy to pick up the phone to you. And then get them excited about sport and movement. Main thing, there's so much out there. If you can watch it, if you've got time to watch it, it's all over TV. Enhanced experiences these days with playbacks and everything. Please just help us out. And the main thing is work with us, not against us, because teamwork makes the dream work. And I really like this quote. I think this just sums up what we are trying to do with you and with the girls the whole time. Thank you for coming, thank you for listening, thank you for giving up your time.